with, everything that is going on, but I don't know how to do that.
Sure. And we've got Arthur back.
Understanding that there really is a healthcare disparity when it comes to people of color, that would be one aspect that would help with, everything that's going on, but I don't know how to do that.
Sure. And we got Arthur back. Arthur, you back with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we sorry we lost you there, but finish your comment.
Okay, and I was basically saying, and I hear Vernell, and when she talks about, like I said, being in the medical field at one time myself, yes, we've got to educate those providers, but that's like what's the old saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make them drink.
Exactly.
So we have to get to the point where we have to put provisions within our own structure to educate. In fact, we have to become the providers. We have to educate our children to think about being doctors, think about being these professionals, we have some very, very good black colleges, medical schools that do things that can promote us there. And that's what we have to do, because you're not going to change those providers who are already there. Because once they're there, once they're making their profit in their life, they're not going to change that. They're making money. They're doing things. They're rolling. They're not going to change it. They don't want to change. So we have to change it. We have to put our people in position, or train them, or try to educate them to the point that they can become the providers. And I truly, truly believe that. And Vernell, I tip my hat to you. You're a wonderful woman. I love hearing you explain things. I love your story. Again, thank you, gentlemen, for having me.
Thank you, Arthur, for calling, and thank you for listening, sir.
Thank you.
All right.
That is good. That is good. Arthur is bringing, some other points as well. And Vernell, you're speaking to, on the one hand, once you uncover this, that's one thing. When you're uncovering, for you to be in this struggle, as you said, it was 2006 when you were first, floored by what the professor said. And here we are, 14 years later. And now it's grown to a point where you're doing the research yourself and kind of pulling it in. But in the meantime, from 2006 to 2014 or 2020, you're still doing, you're still pushing through life kind of the same way, pushing back that whole, trying to push back that superwoman tendency to kind of just do all things the whole time. And, all of this stuff is exacerbated. Now, this is one of the things that, it might end up getting me in some trouble, but I don't know. This is straight no chaser, so you have to say it. But when you talk about, we always talk about black folks being at the top of, we're a smaller part of the population, 12, 13, 14% of the population. But, we are always on the top of all the bad stuff health-wise. High blood pressure, high cholesterol, everything. And yet there's not that much different between, and I know there's other people in the world, but I use black and white because I always use black and white when I'm dealing with race stuff, because that's been the longest, in this country, that's been the longest going issue. If they ever get that relationship right, then all the rest of them will fall in place. But there's not that much difference between black folks and white folks biologically. There's not much that separates us. We're kind of put together the same way, but people are always like, well, how are you always at the highest, or why are we always, higher stress levels, higher, issues with blood pressure and heart attack and heart issues and things like that? Because, the white folks don't have to deal with white folks.
Exactly. You better say it.
I mean, that racial thing is real. That the stress from the day to day, as we talk about on other points, and this goes back to what part of the reason that we wanted to do this discussion tonight was a follow up to kind of what we were talking about last week with Kevin Powell and Yolanda Caraway. We were talking about some other issues, and we were talking about we got into a discussion about whether or not to remove the monuments, statues, and things like that with, Confederate stuff. We got a caller coming in, but just the point that I'm making, we talked about re-educating people and having an education about what's really going on, and re-educating folks. And this is part of that re-education, this whole Superwoman myth and what the reality is about how it affects Black women and their health. So this is part of the reason that we want to talk about that. And then racial tensions and things like that are stressors. Microaggressions are stressors that add to and exacerbate any other situation that we have. So, to me, I think that's a factor. I mean, people want to act like it's not, but, Dr. Amani, that I was talking about earlier, the social epidemiologist, is looking at how these types of things, that what you have to deal with in your environment day to day, your work environment and things like that, make a difference in your health. But we're going to go to the caller. Chief, go ahead. Got a caller for us?
Yeah, we have Phil on the line. Phil, how are you, sir? Phil from Maryland. Doing well, sir. How are you today?
I'm well. Finbad, top of the afternoon to you. And Miss Mitchell, it is very good listening to you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Can she hear me, mate?
Yes, sir. She said she's doing well. Thank you.
So, Chief, Finbad, Miss Mitchell, my wife happened to be passing through my parlor when she was listening to some of the comments. And everything that Miss Mitchell said indeed is true. But my wife, who is somewhat of a coward, I would never say that if she was around. She insisted that I call because she says that there is another side to the Black woman, and what she determines the Black Wonder Woman is that woman who has risen above. She gives her husband, that would be me, a lot of credit because she says that too often Black women do not get recognized for having strong families and strong husbands. And as the caller before, Arthur, talked about, Black men being there to relieve those stresses that Ms. Mitchell talked about. Well, my wife, and of course I agree with her, there are many of us who have overcome our past yesteryear. We still have some who create these problems, but we now have fathers who protect their Black women. Myself, I have a daughter, and I spend a lot of time, and my daughter's grown now, but I still spend a lot of time helping her to understand, to learn what that Black Wonder Woman must be about, must be like, must get educated, must be able to find that man that really she believes is the man for her. So when I was looking at the topic for tonight, I guess what I'm saying to Trinidad, Miss Mitchell, we have a lot of Wonder Women. I mean, I could go from the top, from Michelle Obama, and then I could look at, I would never say the bottom, women like my wife, like Susan, like those women like who stood by us, those that we stood by, who helped to bring our children to the forefront. So I think again, there's nothing that Miss Mitchell said that was wrong. But I think I was just maybe hoping we would hear more about those Wonder Women who are pushing our families forward and who have that help to do it because they are the women that they are. I've been married for life. I got life some 45, 48 years ago. And I wouldn't change a thing in the world. It does take the family unit, and I think we've learned that. Mm-hmm. So again, I just, I told my wife I would call. We do have a whole host of Black women who are making all the difference. Miss Mitchell, and my wife slapped me upside the head when she was listening to you, because that professor who had those things to say to you, she was trying to figure out why you were not just getting out the penitentiary. But so then the question came up, Ms. Mitchell, do you believe that this is a geographical issue, a cultural issue. You know, some would say, well, that may have happened at the university you attended, but at another university, a professor wouldn't dare stand up with a black woman in his presence, especially not a white professor, and say something like that in the midst of the class. I guess that's a question that really got a hold of me. Do we believe that some of these issues are geographical, are they a matter of where you're located? What is it? I mean, I just don't think that, well, I can't say, I have to be careful when I'm talking to you black women, because you all can be a handful. You can be. But Ms. Mitchell, what do you think? Do you think this is because of that particular university, or doing your research, have you found this happening nationwide?
I don't believe it
Mike,
is
I can't hear it. Am I still there?
Yeah, she's responding.
So I don't believe that it is just geographical or
nationwide.
It is geographical. It
I don't believe it. Yeah, she's responding.
Go ahead, Arlene.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
There is a disparity between regions when it comes to the African American community that lives in rural areas. It is socioeconomic. It doesn't just affect people who are of low incomes. It affects people that have middle class incomes and high incomes. When it comes to race, it is across the board. And that is one of the problems, that it is completely across the board.
Wow.
In the PACE organization that I work in, we really serve those who are socioeconomically challenged, as I could say. And we serve a lot of people that are in rural areas. And in rural areas, it's just as bad. But if I could say one thing, and I know that we are close to ending the time, is, and I'm just going to speak personally for me. Yes, I grew up being taught how to be a strong black woman, the superwoman. But what I want to be is just a woman. I want to be the person who is allowed to be vulnerable, who is allowed to walk into a doctor's office and say, I have this issue, and be heard. And that is not what the case is. So when I immediately walk into a doctor's office, I have to feel like I have to talk a certain way, act a certain way, and I have to be vigilant about my care. And I just want to be able to have the same respect that is afforded to my Caucasian counterpart. And that is not the case.
Right. And I also, when Phil heard, like I heard initially, it wasn't your professor was just telling you, was just giving you what it was that they had heard. Not they weren't telling her that, Phil. I thought the same thing. I was wondering why she did slap him and knock him down, but that professor was trying to look out for her by telling her, these are the perceptions, the where you're going, these are the perceptions that you're going to be faced with. Know that going in. Right. So he was trying to kind of warn her beforehand. So that's why she didn't knock him out, and that's why she's here with us and not in jail.
That's right.
She was here talking to us.
Exactly.
Yes, giving us the benefit of her and I just want to thank you before we get to the point where we get to the end. I just want to thank you for not only talking about what it is, because when I talk with Renell, I was saying, hey, this would be great to talk about, but your willingness and candor to be able to kind of share your story and bring your story to the fore too, and how it is appreciated, because not everybody's willing to do that, and that's not something that we asked to do. So I'm thankful, when you offer up your story and personally how you're moving through it and growing from it. I think it always helps, all the folks who are out there listening to us. So you just never know who you're connecting with and who you're touching. So, and thank you for that.
And Arthur brought up some really interesting points, particularly about the role of the male, and he made some good points about the support mechanisms and so forth. And Susan also shared a comment with us from the chat room, And she said, you know, you have also males who believe in